Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rams Talk podcast. The international break is finally over, and we face Preston North End on Saturday afternoon. So joining me today is Oliver, who's a Championship content creator and a Preston North End fan. Thank you for joining us, Oliver.
Thank you very much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. So let's get straight into it. We've had the international break. We don't have another one until March now, so we can get back to focusing on the Championship. Preston, they've been pretty steady Championship club for a while now. I think you and Bristol City sort of get tied in together as the two teams that just will forever be in that league. But if you had to sort of describe the club as a whole, how would you describe Preston North End?
Wow. Just the last couple of seasons, just completely unpredictable. You honestly don't know what you're going to get. Obviously, the fans have big expectations with making it into the top six, the playoffs, potentially getting promoted to the Premier League. Every season, as you said at the start, we just end up finishing mid-table every season, 12th, 13th. I think it was 10th last season. So, yeah, this season so far has... It's been a weird start because obviously our manager Ryan Lowe left after one game, after the Sheffield United game, and then we brought in Paul Heckingbottom, who has been, it's been a massive improvement under him. Still some teething problems, but you can start to see where he's trying to take the club. I'm sure we'll get onto it later, but there's been some big bumps in the road so far. I hope things can improve. I'm sure they will improve, but so far it's not been the greatest of starts. But we're an unpredictable club in an unpredictable league, so it could take us anywhere.
So we touched on it briefly in the episode we recorded for your channel. But the recent results, obviously, you got quite an impressive draw, to be fair, with Sunderland. But you've had a few sort of heavy defeats, I think is fair to say, as well. So talk us through your most recent results, the reasons behind them, and the positives, negatives to take from them.
Yeah, we've been much better at home than we have away. We've so far conceded 3 or more goals on 5 separate occasions so far, which I think is the most of any club so far this season. There's definitely been an improvement attacking wise from the difference between Lowe and Heckingbottom. But yeah, defensively, I wouldn't say it's got worse, because under the last few games with Lowe last season, we were conceding so many. So something does need to change in defence. The Portsmouth away, our most recent game, that was a very frustrating performance, because we didn't even have hardly any chances in that game as well. So it was a poor attacking performance and a very poor defensive performance. Our last home game before that, Bristol City, we were the better side actually in that first half, and then we completely collapsed in the second half, and again conceding 3 in that one. And Plymouth away, in that 3-3 draw, we were leading 3-0 in that game before then conceding 3 in the second half and drawing that one 3-3. Same really with the Norwich one before that as well, leading 2-0, ended up drawing 2-2. So we can't keep on to our leads that we do get, which is very frustrating. So at the moment, it's, as I said before, it's just completely unpredictable, and you don't know what you're going to get. But what he's trying to do, what I see that Paul Heckingbottom is trying to do, is become a side that keeps the ball a lot, possession football, which is completely the opposite to what Ryan Lowe wanted to do. He just wanted to sit back, soak up pressure, then hit teams on the counter-attack, where we didn't create many chances at all. So we had to take our chances in those games if we wanted to score. Under Heckingbottom, we're getting a load more chances. And I'm sure we'll speak about players in a minute, but with a few players coming back from injury and suspension, I do think we're going to start scoring quite a few more goals soon.
I mean, normally at this point, I'd start talking about the reverse fixture. Obviously, we haven't had a fixture yet between us this season, so we're going back a few years to when Derby were last in the Championship. Do you have any memories of any Preston Derby games to stand out to you, or is it a fixture that's just never really sprung any memories for you?
The one that comes to mind was obviously during lockdown in our 1-0 away win against you. We scored in like the 89th minute. It was a last minute goal, that one. Before that, I think I've only ever seen defeats for us, and they've been like very narrow, like 1-0 defeats, 1-0 wins to Derby. Obviously that was when you were doing well in the Championship, like always making it into playoffs, like 6th place, 10th place, before obviously your problems and then getting relegated. So yeah, I do think Derby, they've had a very good start to the season, in my opinion, and I do think them as a very strong club, and thought that they were going to be making it back to the Premier League not too long ago during the playoffs when you had Frank Lampard. So yeah, Derby, I think it'll be a very tough game for us. But yeah, we'll see what happens, because obviously it's a completely different squad to the last time we met. So yeah, anything could happen.
And obviously your squad will have taken on quite a bit of change too, I'd say, in that period of time. So at the moment, at present, who would you say is the danger man for Preston, or maybe the danger men? Who are the players to look out for?
Again, at the moment, not got many. I wouldn't say he's a danger man attacking wise, but certainly our best player so far this season is Ali McCann, our holding midfielder. He's got the nickname Ali McCante here. So basically, he just does what Kante did at Chelsea. He's just a strong tackler, wins the ball back a lot, and he's certainly a great player to have in our midfield. Another player actually returning for this fixture after an 8-game ban is Milutin Osmajic, who I think he might be joint top scorer. I'm not sure who is like top scorer for us at the moment. We've not really scored that many. We had a good patch before the goals did dry up, but Osmajic certainly knows where the net is, and it'll be good for him. It'll be good for us for him to. I'm not sure if he'll start. Obviously, he's not played for 8 games, but he has played for our academy a few times in the build-up for this game. He scored 5 goals the other day against Wigan's academy, so he's looking ready. So I would say Osmajic attacking wise, and then just for our all-round best player, Ali McCann.
And speaking on the Preston squad at the present as well, there's a couple of players in the squad that have links to Derby. One of which is Dwayne Holmes. He spent a few years with us. The other is Emil Rees, came through Derby's academy. Yes. What can you tell us about those two and how they've been getting on?
Dwayne Holmes, I really like. He's in and out the squad at the moment because another player that I haven't mentioned who was really good last season was Masfrokia. He hasn't shown what he could do. He hasn't shown like what he could do last season so far. But he keeps on switching in and out of with him for that attacking midfield role. But I do like Holmes because it reminds me a lot like Messi, actually, because obviously he's not the tallest, but he's a really good dribbler. He's got pace, and Holmes. I wouldn't say whether he could start ahead of Mats or not at the moment, but they're two players that are certainly on the same level. Emil Rees at the moment is a bit 50-50 with the Preston fans. Some think that this could be his last season. He's not good enough. He'll be moving on. Obviously, he scored like 20 plus goals within his second season with us, I think, like after the lockdown season. He did get an injury and he was out for quite a few months, actually. And he returned. Did look like the injury didn't bother him and was scoring again. Since then, he hasn't really been. It's like he hasn't been putting in the effort. He does know where the net is, but when he's on the ball, it just doesn't look like he he cares much, and just very slow on the ball, not very good at holding up the play, loses it easily. So yeah, that's why I'm glad for Osmajic returning, because I do think Reece does need to spend a bit of time on the bench, considering his last few performances.
And are there any players from the Derby squad that you're particularly worried about facing?
Well, main one that I know of is Mendes Lang. He was a very tricky winger. I know of Jerry Yates, but we don't speak about him around here with his links to Blackpool. Nathaniel Phillips, on loan from Liverpool. I know he's played a couple of games for them in the Champions League a couple of seasons ago. So I think he's a very strong defender. Obviously, another player we have links with, but doesn't really play for you much anymore, is Tom Barkhausen. He was one of my favourite players when he was with us. And then we changed manager, which came with a change of formation to play with wing backs, which didn't suit him. But I've kept an eye on him, and I've seen that he's only been like starting for like your academy at the moment, and like coming off the bench for like the final like 10 minutes of games.
Yeah, at the moment he's I've completely zoned out there. At the moment he's one of those sort of players that he's just on the fringe. He's on the fringe, you know. He's I think obviously again we mentioned it on your recording, but he's one of those players at the moment that's not quite being able to get into the team. He's always kind of struggling with injuries, and he'll come into the squad, have a little bit of a purple patch, and then he'll disappear into the background again. So I'm not too sure if we're going to see a lot more of him in a Derby shirt at all. He's a handy player to have around, but I think we could be getting towards the end of his time at the club, maybe. I mean, talking like, you know, going back onto the fixture itself. Do Preston take a different approach to their home games, away games, or is it pretty much the same routine plan?
I think what I've seen so far is we try to play the exact same home and away. That was different under Lowe, and so far it has been a bit different because again our results have been so unpredictable. But we tend to, as I mentioned before, have lots of possession. We like to have a lot of the ball under Heckingbottom, create lots of chances, and it's we're trying to do the exact same home and away. Obviously, barring the Portsmouth game away and obviously the Bristol City game at home. I know the other games we have like mucked up on 3-0 leads, but we did end up getting something out of them, I suppose. So we can't complain much about that. But yeah, the last couple of games haven't been the greatest for us. But yeah, I think we're slowly getting there. And obviously, we saw what he did with Sheffield United when he took over from Chris Wilder a couple of seasons ago. When they were in the Championship, they were round the bottom of the table, and then he took them all the way up and promoted into the Premier League. So I think we have got a good manager, and it's just whether or not that we can, obviously with the January window coming up, he hasn't made any signings yet. It's all the players that Lowe brought in. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do when he has a couple of transfer windows, so he can bring in his own players.
And are there any sort of weaknesses in the Preston team, would you say, that Derby might be able to exploit, or under Heckingbottom has he shored the boat a little bit better?
Yeah, well, our defence, it's been shaky. Those are the weaknesses. Probably say out wide as well. We haven't got the greatest of defensive wing backs. The more attacking than they are defensive. Kessler Hayden on loan from Aston Villa, he's looking really good. Like attacking wise, not sure about him defensively yet. Same with Brad Potts, who's more of a midfielder playing in a wing back role. One player that is good in the role is Robbie Brady, but I think I don't think he'll be back for this one. He is currently out injured. Same with Liam Lindsay. Actually, he could potentially be back. He was injured in the game against Sunderland, and he was on the bench for Portsmouth, but never came on. And obviously, there's been a 2-week international break, so he could be back. So our defence could be a bit stronger than it was against Portsmouth. Hopefully, it was, but certainly, just given the Portsmouth game, it's our defence has just been really frustrating. So I'll say our weakness at the moment is our defence, definitely, especially out wide as well. If you're coming to cut in.
And I mean, we're sort of getting to the end of the preview now, and there's a couple of things that I'm interested in for the people that are going to the game. In and around Deepdale, if you're an away fan, is there anywhere that you'd point away fans to go to? The best away pubs? Any information about the actual area itself?
I would say Deepdale. It's one of the easiest grounds to get to in the league, but maybe that's just me because I know the area. But yeah, I would say the White Hart pub is a good place to park. It has got limited parking, but yeah, they serve drinks. They're open from 11, and it's about a 5-minute walk away from the ground. You've probably not had this answer before, but don't park on the Sainsbury's just outside the ground. They have a maximum of 90-minute stay on match day. So unless you're willing to leave like 15 minutes before full time, then yeah, don't go on there. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, it's a good away day. I've interviewed a few away fans just in the past, and like the likes of Sheffield United, Birmingham City, Sunderland, they've enjoyed their time coming to Preston. So yeah, I'm sure you will too. Obviously, depends on the result, though.
Of course. And talking about the result, that's what we're going to end on. So, can I get your prediction for the game and why?
Well, yeah, obviously, considering our defensive record, the last couple of games that I've mentioned, just so many times this video, we had a good result against Sunderland at home before the international break, our last home game before the break, which ended in a 0-0 draw. Considering the Portsmouth game where we conceded 3, and then obviously conceding 3 on a ton of other occasions so far this season, I'm hoping that we would have worked defensively like the past couple of weeks on the training ground. So yeah, I do think that we will be cautious with this game, especially with us back being home. So I'm going to go for a goalless draw in this one, which may be boring, but yeah, I'll go 0-0.
I think at this moment in time, with the position that we're both in the table, that I wouldn't be too unhappy with a point. To be fair, a point on the road, a point apiece, I wouldn't be complaining at that. But thank you, Ollie, for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. And that is the end of the episode, guys. So you know where to find us. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you could subscribe, that would be brilliant. Leave a comment. We're on Twitter or X as now called. We're on Instagram. We're you know where to find us at this point. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you again for the next